There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
You are indeed welcome here. I am so happy that you have chosen to spend a little time with us this afternoon. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes with Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, and we have a great program for you today. I'm super excited and feeling joyous and happy and just glad to be here. I love that song. Gosh, I struggle when I watch it sometimes to just not cry. I think it's just so beautiful. But before we get started, we'll go ahead and jump in and tell you a little bit about who we are. Put our values up on this page here. Let's see. Where's our values? Here we go. This is what is important to us at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. The first thing on our list is spiritual growth and practice. That is the reason that we gather. That's why we do what we do, so that we can all grow and learn together. So welcome to our gathering today. We value love. We believe that love is the essence of our being as divine spiritual entities, right? We believe that appreciation is super important, and that the things that we appreciate grow in our awareness and our understanding. We value community. We can all be on this spiritual path on our own, but there's something that happens when we come together in community and with people who are dedicated to the same ends and the same goals. And so there's a synergy that happens, and we get where we want to go a lot faster and easier. So we value community, and we value freedom. That's freedom of expression. We believe we all come in here with gifts and talents and abilities, and we all want to express those, and we should be able to do that. We value creativity. We believe that that is the way that we are like our Creator, that we have been created in the image and essence of that which created us, because we are also creators, creating our life experience. And we value health and wholeness, and that is in every aspect of our being, whether it's your physical health or your mental health, your emotional health. We value it, and we believe that it is our birthright, that we come into this world whole already. We believe in generosity. Again, that's related to that giving and to appreciating that as we give, we receive. And lastly, financial well-being. That's part of that overall well-being of our lives. So that is what is important to us at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. And our vision is that we are a model center for spiritual living, as evidenced by the transformational impact we have, not just on our own spiritual community, but on the community at large and on the larger Centers for Spiritual Living organization. And what that means is that we're doing what we came here to do if your world is working a little bit better, if your life is working better because of the things that you've learned here, or the conversations that we have, the practices that you get, then we're doing what we came here to do. And our mission is that to empower individuals to awaken to that power and presence that lies within and all around them, so they may live their best lives. And that is what we are about. All right. And so if you've been following along with us, for this whole year, we have been doing a program called the Revolutionary Love Project from Valerie Kaur, and it is based on her book called See No Stranger. And every month has been a different aspect of this idea of loving people in a way that is, well, revolutionary and not so revolutionary. It's old and it's new at the same time, because this is the kind of love that all of the great teachers have spoken of, that agape kind of love, that unconditional positive regard that we can have for ourselves, for others, and even for our opponents. And we've been breaking that down. Every month has been a different aspect of that conversation. We've talked about grief. We've talked about anger, in honoring all of our emotions. We have talked about wonder. We've talked about coming together in community. A whole lot of stuff, right? It's been months and months of study and conversation. And we end this study with a conversation around the idea of joy. And so, if you've been following along again, that every week I'm here with at least one other guest, and we have a conversation on the topic at hand. And my guest this Sunday today is a dear friend of mine who, when I thought joy, he's one of the first people that came to mind. And I thought we just have to have this conversation. If I can find my glasses now, I'll go ahead and read you his official bio before we bring him in. And John Harold Moore is a spiritual coach, a writer, a speaker, and a Course in Miracles teacher. He's also a pioneer in the practice of family constellations, which is a revolutionary modality that reveals and heals hidden generational patterns that keep people from living the happy, healthy, prosperous lives they were meant to live. John graduated from the Family Constellations Institute of Miami in 2013 and has been speaking and facilitating workshops online and all over the United States ever since. Oh my gosh, what else can I tell you about this man, John? I just love him dearly. I'm going to bring him in right now. Hello, love.
Hey, hi Cindy, hi everyone. Thanks
Hello.
for
Oh,
having me.
I'm so excited to have you with us. And so it's been how long now that we've known each other? 2015, 2016, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Met at the Big Sky Retreat in Montana.
We
And
did.
little did we know we were neighbors. We had to go all the way to Montana to connect for the first time.
That's right. To find out we were both here in Florida. So what a treat. And oh my gosh, so many things, since that meeting. This modality, for one thing, that we're going to talk about a little bit today, family constellations. But you're just such a master at what you do and have this beautiful
Thank you.
heart. And like I said, when I think of joy, I think of John. It just, you bring a smile to my face. So thrilled to
It's
have you.
mutual. It's mutual, by the way.
Thank you. Now, I love for my folks to get a sense of different, ways that people pray, and so I'm just going to invite you to do our invocation so people can get that.
Sure. I'd be honored to.
Great, thank you.
All right. So if this feels comfortable for you, go ahead and close your eyes and bring your attention to your heart space, that place where that divine spark lives in each one of us. And as we bring our attention there, that light grows and expands and it connects us all because that is the truth that we are one. We are not separate. And that is when we feel the most joy when we remember that we are connected to each other and our source. So I'm knowing this time together, whether you're watching live or watching a replay later, that we have that awareness that we are one indeed, that there is no separation of time and space. We're together in that oneness, in that beautiful divine light that lives right there in our heart space. So I know everything that is shared today comes from that heart space. I'm so grateful to have this conversation about joy and so grateful for all the people at the Centers for Spiritual Living Ocala that make this possible and the light and the love that they share so generously. And may this conversation bless you so that you may be a blessing in the world. So I release this prayer knowing it is so, and so it is. Thank you.
And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. It's so beautiful. Just love your
Mm.
heart. Well, I didn't tell you what the title was going to be. You knew we were going to talk about joy, right? But
I did know that part. And I didn't know that John Stringer was the musician that contributed the opening song. That was a nice surprise too, to hear that. I met John at a spiritual retreat in North Carolina like 11 years ago, he and his wife and his two kids. And our paths have only crossed very briefly since then, but what a nice surprise to hear his voice. And that is a gorgeous, gorgeous song. So that already brought me joy. And we haven't
oh,
even
so
started yet.
so many, little tendrils, right, of connection.
Hmm.
John is, I think, well, if not today, very soon on his way to Jamaica, along with Donna and Norma for their transformation
Oh,
vacation. And
oh
so
my goodness.
all
That's a
these
lot
little
of joy in one space with those three.
yes, yes, yes. I was going to be there, but my plan changed. So maybe next year.
All right.
Next year. So anyway, I'm just so happy you said yes to coming today, and I know you're familiar with See No Stranger, and but mostly familiar with this idea of joy, and and I just wanted to maybe start because the title is Happiness is Overrated, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
people very often equate happiness and joy. And I just want to see what you think about what the difference is. I've been thinking about this a lot since the topic came up, and I'd love to just kick that
Yeah,
around a little bit.
yeah. Because I will admit I do use those words interchangeably a lot. And when I think about joy, in comparison to happiness, there's something deeper and intrinsic, because the joy, for me, if I were going to discern them, it would be that joy isn't dependent on outside circumstances. It's just a quality of source, of God, that lives within each one of us. And so I remember I heard this once that really spoke to me a long time ago at Unity of Fort Lauderdale. There was a guest speaker one Sunday, and he was talking about joy. And like when you see a puppy or you see a kitten or a baby, like they don't really do anything. Like it's not like they wrote you a check for $1 million, or they, brought you cookies or anything. It's just there's something that seeing that little creature, whatever that is for you, that elicits this joy out of my heart. And again, it's like it's living there. It's always there, and the things around me may bring it out, but it's not something that I had to get from outside. I had it all along. So for me, that's a difference. Whereas happiness usually depends on, oh, things went the way I thought they should, or I got the thing, or the whatever the circumstances that I felt like that's what should happen. And then when they don't happen, then I'm unhappy. So for me, that's kind of how I distinguish the two. What about you?
I think I've come to the same thing. Happiness is kind of that fleeting thing, right?
Mhm.
It's an emotion, just like all emotions. It just kind of, it flows. Um, and so it's transitory, but joy, I think you're right, is the thing that's inside of you. And it can be present even in the midst of great pain and
Yeah,
even suffering. And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah, it's different. It's different. Like I
Hmm.
can experience joy, and I have experienced joy as a minister. It may sound crazy to people, but in a funeral, even, where
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
they're grieving and there's sadness, but there's joy in the celebration of a person's life.
Yeah,
So you wouldn't
yeah,
call that happiness. There's some other thing going on there that feels expansive and connecting and really beautiful, even though there's pain in the midst of it.
yeah. That documentary, if you can call it that, I guess it's more of a presentation talk by Rob Bell, An Introduction to Joy. That's one of my favorite parts about that, is how he said calls joy, it's like a container that can hold it all. Like it's not just the stuff we would call good. Joy can hold even the hard times. Even if you've just had something very unpleasant happen, in the next moment you can still experience joy, or even in that moment you can experience joy, because you maybe a lot of people reach out to you and they know you're going through a hard time, and there's something about gratitude that's kind of woven in there too, um, that wow, that even in this dark time, or even in this challenging time, I still feel seen, I still feel loved, and I'm joyful that I can still have that connection, um, even in this time.
Yeah, yeah. Have you experienced that personally? Is there any, you would share?
Um, yeah, like huh. There was so much, like I guess the thing that comes to my mind the first is the end of my mom's life.
Mm,
And as it was challenging the the last few years of her life.
mm,
Um, and there was such a process of surrendering, and okay, this is just how it is. Like she's not going to change, and um, this is an opportunity to get to that place of unconditional love, where she doesn't try to change me and I don't try to change her. And it was the night that she passed. My, it was one of those. I think I well, this is another conversation, but I do believe that souls somehow know the perfect time to
mm,
depart. and my mom left with me rubbing her feet and my brother holding her hand.
Mm,
And she was notorious for her sense of humor.
mm,
And we were calling my sisters to let them know, hey, we didn't know that it was like moments away. We thought, maybe the next day or two. So we were calling my sisters to let them know, hey, if you want to see mom, you better come now. Not they were supposed to come in a couple days. And so we called the first sister. I have three older sisters, and her voicemail picked up. So we're like, oh, probably don't want to leave a message like that. We'll try to call her back. And while we were making that phone call, my mother took her last breath. And
mm,
there had been longer and longer spaces in between her breaths, but she always took another one. So we said, oh, we missed it. Ha ha ha. We were literally laughing. And that really was her last breath. We really did. So she left us laughing in true Billy Moore style. So even in that sadness, there was joy. And I
mm,
really was so happy for her that she released the body that was failing her and was not letting her do the things she wanted to do, and the mind that was failing her. And there was such a joyous freedom in that evening. And so my brother and I went to a pizza place, not surprising for anyone who knows me,
mm,
that my mom and I used to go to a lot. And after she passed, and we waited for whatever we needed to do with the hospice and medical team there at where she was living. And the owner of the restaurant, I never knew he was from our hometown of Binghamton, New York. And we had this conversation because, of course, he asked where my mother was, and we told him, well, she just made her grand exit. And he said something to my brother that I could get teary eyed just thinking about, that, your brother took such good care of your mom. Like, I hope when I'm older, I have someone as attentive to me.
mm.
And it just, we never know who's observing our actions, but there was joy, even though she had died. There was joy in that moment, that he recognized how much I loved my mother and how much she loved me. And to hear, my brother, to hear him say that was just so powerful. And then he comped our meal too, so that was pretty nice as well. So it felt like my mom gave us some free pizza that night as a final parting gift. So yeah, that's what comes to mind when
Oh,
I think of how joy and sadness can coexist in the same container.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have a moment like that?
I have many. I asked you the question, and I didn't want to get into my own thoughts about it because I want to be present, for your story.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, there have been so many. Let me see. A recent one maybe was while I had COVID.
Mm,
Yeah, and I was in a dark, nasty place. But there was joy in just knowing that I had community, right? That
yeah.
I had people, and people were checking in on me, and people were looking after me and praying for me and sending me stuff. And there was joy in that connection. I think that's a
Yeah.
part of joy. If we could say, like, define it, what it is without using the word. Um, there's something about connection. There's
Yeah.
something that is expansive about joy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There's something in how it, like, where does it settle in the body? Like, how do you know? I think I know we feel our emotions in our physical body. So
Yeah.
there's something about joy that's just like, oof, it's big.
Yeah. And one of the things that brings me the most joy is dancing and being on a dance floor. Like, I used to be club kid in South Beach, and one of my favorite songs was a song called Unspeakable Joy by Kim English. And the lyric goes something like, um, they unspeakable joy, they did not give it, so they cannot take it away. And the whole song, the lyrics are just so positive. And And I could just, whenever that song would come on, it had a lot of bass too. I love a song with a lot of bass, but I could just hear it. There's a part that goes boom, 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 boom. I just,
Mhm.
there's joy wells up in me when I think about that too. So there is something about movement and a visceral feeling in our body as well associated with joy.
Yeah, yeah. Have you always been like, a joyous person, or is it something you cultivated, or
Well, there was a lot of joy in my family, even though there was a lot of dysfunction and addiction. Um, my family, I attribute the joy factor to my family because and my mother, because she could make a joke about anything. And there was a lot of love and a lot of teasing, but we had a lot of fun as a family. And some families, when there's trauma, shatter, and my family kind of clung together. Um, so I'm really grateful for that. But there was a lot of sadness I was carrying. And, this is kind of the family constellations perspective, that I didn't realize how much sadness I was carrying from my mom and my dad and my grandmother that had been passed down from generation to generation. So it wasn't until, so part of my childhood, there was a lot of responsibility and a lot of sadness. So
Mhm.
it was like a wet blanket thrown on my joy. And then I felt like I got a second chance at a childhood when I worked for Disney as a
Mhm.
character, because being in those costumes and being in the parades, and I was getting paid to be a little kid and to play, and nobody could see my face for the first couple of years because I had roles that my face wasn't showing. So I could take chances because I was painfully shy when I was a little. I know it's hard to believe that I was, but I truly was very, very shy as a little one. And into my high school and even college, started to come out of my shell. But it was really that time, those 7 years at Disney World, that brought me out of my shell. And joy, like I loved being Tigger because he is just the epitome of joy and bouncing and all the hugs from the kids. I mean, there was such joy in that job. As hard as it was sometimes, but it was I think what kind of opened up the floodgates in a way.
I never put that together for you. I mean, I knew you were at Disney, and I knew you were Prince
Uh-huh.
Charming. I didn't know you were Tigger, and so it's just so funny, like spirit dropped it in my mind or my heart or whatever, that Juan is the person at the top is about joy, and so just how perfect that is.
And sometimes, I was more in an Eeyore mood. I was glad that I could just be kind of, because it takes a lot of energy to be Tigger. Sometimes,
Yeah.
we have the capacity for both our inner Tigger and our inner Eeyore.
But they're not exclusive. I think that's the
Right.
thing that people maybe don't understand, or maybe it hits people really hard during the holidays,
Yeah.
because we have this idea that we're always supposed to be happy,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Hmm.
we're entitled, or it's our birthright, the pursuit of happiness, right? That's like our
Hmm.
our American mantra. And when it's not that way, you feel like there's something wrong. What's going on with me?
Right.
Everybody else is happy. I
Right.
mean, look at everybody's Facebook feed. What's wrong?
Right. Right. I see everyone celebrating and like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of course it's Christmas, it's the holidays. Everyone is supposed to be joy, 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 joy to the world.
Exactly. Yeah. But, I pulled up a few quotes for this conversation today. One of them was from Khalil Gibran, who says, "He who has not looked on sorrow will never see joy."
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Like, we can't selectively choose the feelings we're going to have. Like tell myself, I'm
Yeah.
only going to feel joy. I'm that sadness, that anger, that stuff is not for me. I'm not going to feel that. It doesn't work that way. When you cut yourself off from any of your emotions, you cut yourself
Right.
off from your joy as well. And
I totally agree.
right.
Totally agree that if, the to let ourselves feel, like just let myself cry. And, maybe if I'm mad, just punch a pillow or something, express it in a healthy way. But stuffing it because, oh, I'm on the spiritual path, I shouldn't be feeling this, is not a great strategy because well, at least it hasn't been for me. Um, to try to airlift myself out of the sad place or the dark place, just keep walking through it, because the truth of who I am is joy. And that, I love A Course in Miracles, and one of my favorite lessons is, um, God's will for me is perfect happiness. And it doesn't say that you're always going to be happy. It just says that is God's will for you. And I can get caught up in other things. It's also lesson 101, which always struck me as perfect because, in college, like anatomy 101, like here's this basic idea, because somehow we think that that God's will for us is suffering or giving up things. If I'm going to be a good person, then I've got to give up all the good stuff or the fun stuff. And I that's what the course has done for me, is made God much more approachable. And no matter what I'm doing or what I'm experiencing, I know that eventually I can get back to my true nature. But it's a journey to get there. So I'm just removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence, as the Course says. So there's another one. Okay, I'm feeling that one. And then remembering the truth that God's will for me is perfect happiness. And I can get back, like it's not anyone's will for me to suffer, except maybe part of my own my own illusion.
Right, right. I wonder, this kind of dropped in on me this morning when I was thinking about this, and like our national mantra almost is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, what if the founding fathers had switched that up just a little bit and said life, liberty, and the experience of,
Yes.
right? Instead of the
Yes.
pursuit of it, so that we're like always chasing after it and never really
Yeah.
catching it, you know?
Right. Right.
Right. Of course,
So true.
our culture has ways of, well, you'll be happier if you eat this, or you'll be happier if you buy
Mm-hmm.
this, or
Mm-hmm.
you marry someone like that. And it's always like looking for something outside of you, that continual
Yeah.
pursuit, instead of
Yeah.
like, I'm entitled to joy right here, right now, with everything
Mm-hmm.
that's happening in my life.
Yeah. That's reminds me of something else from the Course. The Course says the ego's mantra is seek but do not find.
Mm,
So I love what you just said about the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, if we're always in pursuit, we're never content. And I think joy happens when we're in a place of contentment with what we have. Like, I'm grateful that I have this community. I'm grateful that I have a friend like Cindy Grimes.
mhm.
In this place, instead of, oh, well, I'll be grateful when I do this or when this happens. And it's not that we can't have goals, but it's just, I'll never forget one time when I was living in Fort Lauderdale. I had just done my walk on the beach in the morning, and I was just floating in the ocean. It was so beautiful. And there was this thing like, oh, well, I can't wait till I have a condo that's overlooking the water. And I can't wait till I write my book and finish it and get it published, and people can start hearing some more stories that I want to share. And then I had this moment of, um, aren't you in the ocean right now on a Friday morning? And aren't you already doing work that you love? Aren't you already sharing stories in your weekly emails? Like, all those things that I thought I needed were the pursuit of happiness or being joyful. I was already experiencing them right there in that moment. I'll never forget that moment. It was such a game changer, and of course, I still forget, but if I can remember that moment, like, "Oh, I'm already exactly where I need to be and doing what I need to be doing."
Yeah, that reminds me of another quote, and it's by Marianne Williamson, who also happens to be, right, a follower of A Course in
Course in
Miracles.
Miracles.
And
Mhm.
she says that joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are.
Love that.
Yeah, like
Love that.
it can be right here, right now,
Mhm.
Is it
Mhm.
we know we spoke about your mom's passing, and that nothing is promised.
No.
So if you're continually putting your happiness or your joy off to some moment in the future, when you lose weight, or you have the partner, or you've written the book, or you've got the the
Hmm.
condo,
Hmm.
and what happens when that never happens?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
this is the moment. This is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
To be.
Exactly. Can I be okay with what is? And if not, I feel, speaking of 101, I had a reading with a psychic back in 1992, and I kind of think of it as my spirituality 101 class, because I really didn't know a whole lot about anything beyond the five senses back then. And I remember him asking me, if you could do that age old question, if you could do anything you wanted, if money weren't a concern, or time or responsibilities, what would you do? And I remember thinking, oh, well, I do a lot of things. And he said, okay, well, name one of them. And I started this uncomfortable giggling. And then I started crying.
Mm,
And I said, I don't know why this is so difficult.
mm,
And he said, may I offer a theory of why it's so difficult? He said, if you are someone who's been the good boy all your life and done what everyone else wanted you to, you have lost touch with what you want.
mm,
And so when you ask that question, that little voice, that little one that lives in each one of us, has been telling you what would make him or her happy, and you haven't been listening. And so finally it just stops talking. And that was another game changing moment of realizing, yeah, my codependency of growing up in an alcoholic household, it was all about, make sure mom is happy, because
yeah.
again, my very survival depended on mom being okay. And so that became my wiring. And the thought of what does John want wasn't really as important as what needed to happen. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that, because there's a lot of families that someone has to be the adult in this family. So I guess it's me. And it really struck me of how much I needed to cultivate that relationship with my inner child,
Mhm.
and let him know what he wanted to do. And it wasn't long after that that I moved to Orlando and worked for Disney. So that's one thing I would love to suggest is, for everyone listening, take yourself on a date. Like what would you want to do? What movie would you want to see? Or what park would you go to? Or what restaurant? Or go
Mhm.
buy an ice cream or something, like just you for you, and get in touch with that thing that brings you joy, because that's one of the obstacles to joy, is that we think it's we've lost touch with what that even is
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah. And the fear that we can't get it back somehow.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
people, emotions are scary for people. I think, it's like, if I let myself feel this sadness, or if I
Hmm.
let myself feel the anger, that it's going to take over, and I'm somehow going to get lost in that.
Yeah. 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 It
Yeah.
especially when we're not given tools to manage them, or to navigate them, or it's not even, we're not given permission to feel those emotions, like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. Or
Right.
we don't, toughen up, or boys don't cry, or whatever the stories. And that's where constellations come in, is discovering and revealing what is lurking in our unconscious mind. What are these stories? What are these beliefs that we don't even know are still in there? And getting permission from our ancestors to do it differently. Like, I bless you to do it differently. There's this, one of the things I see a lot in my work is, if parents had a tumultuous relationship, or if there was a lot of scarcity or poverty in a family, um, the children almost, it's that kind of like survivor's guilt. It's not okay for me to do better than my parents, or I can't be in this family and not suffer, because then they'll make fun of me, or they'll call me a traitor, or they'll say, oh, look at, you're too good for the family. And I love it when someone has that aha moment or hears from their mother or father in a constellation setting, you honor me by doing well. You honor me by having all the financial resources that you need and being in relationships that nurture and support you and having work that you love
Mhm.
and, being healthy. That's how you honor me, not by repeating the pattern that have been going on for generations in our family. And it's to get that permission, because that's really what our ancestors want, whether they were able to express it or not while they were here. And anyone who is currently a parent or a caregiver for someone, that that's what you want for your kids. You want them to have the best opportunities, more opportunities than you did. You don't want them to, face the same prejudices you did. You want them to have all way more joy in their life, and that all the joy they can allow in. And that's what they really want. And it may not track with your memory of what happened, but the highest version of them, that's what they wanted. And I love seeing that be revealed in a constellation, so people can break free of the limit that they didn't even know that they had.
Right. So we should probably let people know what constellations is if there's anybody watching that hasn't experienced that workshop with you, because we know you have one coming up.
I do. And it's based on one of the main tenets of family constellation, is the energy of giving and receiving has to be equal or appropriate. And so this one coming up is balancing the energy of giving and receiving. It felt like good timing, because there's so many people that this time of year that can get way out of balance. Like, I'm buying for everybody else,
Mhm.
but oh, what do you want? Oh, nothing. I don't need anything. Or we say yes to things that we don't really have time to do, and or maybe we get a lot of presents, but we don't feel, oh, I just deserve presents, but it doesn't feel good that I'm getting so much. Or so yeah. But constellations is it's an experience. It's so hard to talk about, to describe in words, because it is such an experience. But it's a modality that we have representatives for different aspects of your family or your story, your experience. And we see, by people taking on the energy of who or what these things are, we see hidden dynamics that maybe you would never have seen before, or make connections that you wouldn't have made before. And it can be just two people, or it can be a whole group. It can be in person, or it can be online. And something magical happens because we've all agreed to participate in this experience. And the way spirit weaves through everyone, and information that will be helpful to help the person and everyone there to heal and let go of some of these old patterns. We have access to that. And yeah, I've been doing it since 2013, and I'm still blown away every single time, because it goes way beyond me, what happens in these workshops and sessions.
It's remarkable. It really is. And I don't know how many of them I've experienced now, either being in it. I've had a couple of my own, participating in others, people's watching. It's just every one of them is
Your
just.
kids getting picked, and this is your life, Cindy. That
I don't
brought
know
me a
if
lot of joy, seeing your
Oh my
kids.
gosh. I don't know if I've shared that story recently, but so I do a one-on-one with John because it's my story. Like I don't want my stuff played out, for people to
And
people who
you're
haven't experienced. It's almost like people are living chess pieces and they're moving
Yeah.
around in this field, and you're watching the interactions between different people and seeing your life played out. And so I did my own by myself and then go to the center the next day for John to do constellations for the whole community. And so you go, well, everybody put your name in the hat, so we can, even if you don't want to go, just put your name in the hat, because you can give it to somebody else. And I thought, I'm not even putting my name in the hat. I just did this yesterday. And what happens? My two kids get picked back to back, and I'm just like watching my life, parts of
And
my
who's
life.
and who's representing me in this?
You
But
handled it beautifully.
bless you for your courage to do that and allow that. And that's the beautiful thing, is that we learn how much more we have in common than we are different. And everyone plays their part perfectly, and it's so connected that it's not just a person whose name is picked. Everyone can relate to the story of what's being played out in these different roles. And yeah, it touches everyone on some level. So even if it's not yours, but or if it's your kids.
Or if it's your kids. It was so crazy. And the first time we experienced it, like you said, was at Big Sky. And Grady, actually, my husband, went to the workshop first. And he's not
Mhm.
usually that kind of he wouldn't be into that on his on his own. And he came out of that experience and said, I don't know what just happened, but it was mind-blowing, and you need to check this out. So
I take that as a high compliment. Thank you, Grady.
a very high compliment. A very high. He speaks the truth. Let me see what we've got here. We have a few people speaking here. Let's see. On the side here, some comments.
We
Oh,
have
we've
some
got Mary Lou.
questions.
Mary Lou said, "You certainly helped me see the dynamics of my family that I never knew."
Hmm.
These are people who've been in constellations.
Oh, nice. Thank you,
And
Mary Lou.
Lita says, John Facilling Constellations was one of the first events I attended at CSL Ocala. Remember equally hoping I'd be called on, and hoping I wouldn't be called on. That's the truth, right? Oh no, like I want to work through this, but I'm not
I
sure I
do,
want to
but
do
oh no, my name just
this.
got picked. No, wait.
Oh, oh my goodness. And someone else here, Natasha, has had suggestions to do it. Schedule never works.
Mm,
So yeah, we
mhm.
can well, let me put that up so people can see that there's a workshop happening here next weekend online. Right. If you
Mhm.
want to, this is what you were just talking about, right? Right, John? The balancing the energy of giving and receiving.
Exactly, exactly. So we're going to do some exercises and some full constellations. It's an online workshop on Zoom. So you can participate from the comfort of your own home. It's a 3-hour workshop. So I know it's a big time commitment, but it goes by like that. I can't believe and we do take a break in the middle so you can step away from your computer. I know it's a long time to be on your computer, but when the pandemic first locked everything down, I was like, oh boy, okay, what am I going to do? And somebody sent me a link to take a class on how to do them via Zoom. And I was very skeptical. I thought, I don't know. I don't think this is good. You can't replace the live experience. Like, people move around, but I took it because of it can't hurt. And I'm amazed that it still works. It doesn't matter that we're not in the same physical space. And technology sometimes participates where somebody might get knocked off, their internet goes out, and then they come back. And when they get knocked off, everyone feels better when that person, whatever they were representing. I remember somebody was representing secrets once. And as soon as she got knocked out, I was like, oh, I feel so much better that they didn't know who she was, but they just felt better that whatever she was representing was no longer part of the picture. And then she logged back on, and like everyone's like, oh, they're back. Again, not personal towards the person,
Right.
because she was just representing secrets. And it was so telling to see what happens when there are secrets in families, that they're very poisonous.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I've played the roles in other people's constellations, and the feeling that you get in the midst of it, it's just incredible. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, is
yeah.
this isn't mine. I don't know what's going on here. I just know that I'm feeling some kind of way, or I'm not feeling. Sometimes there's something that's like inanimate, like money
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that, and there's no feeling.
Hmm.
It goes
And
with
it's all perfect. That's the great thing. You can't do it wrong. And
yeah,
it really, even though we tackle some really difficult subjects like suicide or abuse or anything that we don't normally want to talk about, I could just, circling back to joy, it wouldn't feel like there could be joy in some of those circumstances. And yet, because we create this container, this sacred space, there can be joy as we release those patterns and our ancestors are filled with joy that the pattern is going to stop with us and it's not going to be repeated for any more generations. So it's a great example of how that container of joy can hold a lot of different elements, and it's not just um, you know rainbows and unicorns.
yeah, yeah. And the other powerful thing that happens is when you break one of those patterns, when you release it, it's gone. It's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Hmm.
remember the moment specifically in my constellation, and you had handed me a set of weights.
Hmm. Two
we were in Ted's
barbells.
courtroom. It was a set of barbells, and it was
Hmm.
heavy. And I was holding this, and this is a representation of my mother's pain, and now it's time for you to give it back to her. And the sobbing, like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't give this pain back. She's carried it for so long, and I had all this story in my head. And you said, or you stepped into maybe the role of my daughter. And now my daughter is carrying my pain. What do I want my daughter to do with that? And of course, it's like, okay, give it back, give it to me. That's not yours to carry. Well, that is what your mother is
Yeah.
feeling as well about you. And it just clicked. It clicked. I handed over the weights and I felt a burden lift that I just knew I was going to lose the pounds that I had been carrying my whole life. My whole
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
And I'm right now, well, I'm 80 pounds from my highest, but gained a few pounds during COVID. But what an amazing, amazing experience. The energetic shift that happened in that
Yeah,
moment.
it was powerful because I remember you just dropped them at one point and like they clunked on the ground, and it
Mm,
was like, oh, something is different. Like this it's one thing to talk about it,
yeah.
and with all due respect to traditional therapy, it's amazing, it's wonderful and helpful. And a lot of times this is a different angle to get at something that a traditional therapist wouldn't ask. And to have the experience of when you literally dropped those weights, um, it was that something visceral happens in your body, or when you hand something back
Hmm.
to your ancestors that you've been carrying that you didn't know. Like I was carrying so much of my mother's pain. I thought it was mine because I was the one that was feeling it.
Hmm.
But once I came to do this work, I realized how much it was blocking my joy because I felt like it was I thought maybe if I took some of it, she wouldn't be in so much pain, unconsciously, of course. And we do this out of love. But once we give it back, and then mom can give it back to her ancestors, and then it goes back and back and back. I like the image of, if you're holding on to something and you give it to two people behind you, now they only have half, and then two more people, now it gets smaller and smaller until finally it's just a little grain of sand and it's nothing.
Hmm.
um, but for us, it's heavy to carry it.
Yeah. Anything gets heavy, you carry it long enough, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
can play that. I've done this in workshops or seen it done where you hold a glass of water and just hold it out for a
Hmm.
while.
Hmm.
And when you first hold it, it's nothing. Hold it for 5 minutes, hold it for
Hmm.
10, 15. I mean, just keep on holding it. Eventually your arm is gonna feel like it's
Yeah.
gonna fall off. Anything you hold
So
for too long that's not
so
meant to
true.
hold, right?
So true. Gotta keep everything flowing and moving.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna see if there's any other comments here. I don't know if you can see them. Erin was saying that when she attended the constellation, she was in the worst part of her grief. Yeah.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
and was able to help her move through that. Let's see, Deb, some other folks who have experienced it. I think all the people on the chat right now experienced it in person.
Wow, that's pretty
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. But I'm going to really encourage people to do the workshop, and I've experienced it online as well. And I just can't recommend it enough.
Mm.
Oh my goodness, the time really has gone by.
It
Holy
has.
moly. But I think you're just such a great example, and thank you for your transparency and your and sharing your story. You know, because people see someone who seems happy and joyous and thinks, "Wow, they just must, Lucky John."
He's like that. He must be like that all the time.
Yeah, you've got that great, disposition or whatever, not realize, all that you have moved through and that you help other people move through and are still able to tap into that place of joy.
Yeah, and
So
that, thank you, Cindy. And it just feels, you know, the big the my I call my mother my master teacher in a lot of ways. And when I think of her now, there's just joy in my heart. There's just gratitude that because of all that we experienced together, I could be here on this spiritual path. It led me to New Thought. It led me to A Course in Miracles. It led me to Family Constellations. And to be able to transmute that experience into something that's helpful for other people, for me, there is no greater joy than that. I'm guessing you feel the same way.
I do. I do. You know what? I wore my these are earrings are the peacock. My
Oh,
friends, Ed and George, who were formerly CSL Boston, gave me these. And the peacock, the reason I love the peacock, you see one back
I
here, is
see
I love
one behind you too.
that was the first thing is I just love the colors. But the other thing that I found after, just doing a little bit of research was that the peacocks can take poisonous things, poisonous berries, snakes, things like that, and they ingest it and their body transforms it. And scientists think maybe
Wow.
that's part of the beauty of their colors and their vibrance.
Wow.
So I love
Wow.
that metaphor and that, that reminder, the joy, right? That can be
Yeah.
in the midst of pain and sorrow that's always
Mhm.
available to us. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And I love you.
I love you. This has been so much fun. And
Yes, I
so, yeah,
so appreciate you. And I want you to know, I think I've mentioned to you before that we do a Zoom call afterward. And if you're available, I'm sure folks would love to chat with you. And if not, we totally understand and appreciate your being with us.
sure,
Uh,
I can hang out for a little bit. Yeah, I'd
Terrific.
love
So
to. I'd love
we'll be
to.
we'll put the Zoom. Richard will put the link in the chat, and you can. There it is. And so
Hmm.
we will see you on Zoom.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, now I got it.
Yes, there we go. All right, cool beans.
Okay.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on Zoom. We'll continue the
Okay.
conversation. Thank,
Okay. Thanks, Cindy.
love you.
Love
Bye.
you too. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Oh, what fun. We could have gone on, we could have talked for another hour or hours. I'm sure there'll be a continuation of this conversation at some point. But at this moment, it's time for us to do our offering. And so this is a time when for sharing gifts, if the things that we talk about and the things that we stand for and that we share from CSL Ocala touch your heart in some way, just encourage you and ask you to help support our center in some way financially. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can go right to our website and donate at cslocala.org/donate, or text to tithe, which is a really cool way to give money. You text the number that's scrolling across the screen there, and you put in the amount of money that you want to send us, and it goes right from your account to ours. And that number is 352-320-5110. Once you program it into your phone, you don't have to do it again. So just put in the number 20, 200, 2000, whatever you want to give us. We'll take it. So I invite you to take a look at this affirmation. I'm going to go ahead and read it and encourage you to really make it your own, to feel it, because this is how giving and the laws of giving and receiving and reciprocity receive, right? We put the seed, we plant the seed, and it returns to us, multiplied. So it is the nature of life to give of itself, as it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so I invite you to make that your own. What else do we have going on here? Oh, I know there's a big thing happening. We will be having our annual meeting. We didn't have one this year. COVID has put us into a little bit of a, I don't want to say a tailspin, but out of our norm for sure. And so we are going to have our annual meeting at the beginning of the year instead of, in March or April. And it will be the last Sunday in January. We've got to give you plenty of notice. Make sure everybody can put it on their calendar. It will be the 30th at 11 a.m. at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. If you are a member or interested in becoming a member and finding out more about who we are and what we're about, we invite you to attend that meeting, and we'd love to have you. So what else? Anything else? Let me see in the comments if there's anything else here I need to say. No, it looks like that about covers it. I think we'll be doing karaoke and cookies one night in December, and we'll be coming back pretty much full steam ahead. It's going to be a little bit different format than it has been in the past, but we will be meeting again, having weekly gatherings every week. Once a week, there'll be a weekly gathering. May not be on Sundays, but there will be opportunities for us to get together regularly in person. And of course, we'll be continuing online as well. So yay, we miss karaoke. I saw that. December 18th is karaoke, and I think it's at 7 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. But be sure to sign up for our newsletter, like our page, and you'll be kept up with all of the latest information. And do join us on Zoom as soon as we wrap up this conversation. So what else is there? I think that's it. Maybe just our closing prayer, which is here somewhere. There it is. All right. Take a deep breath. And again, I invite you to make this your own prayer. It comes from our friends in Unity and James Dillett Freeman, and it is so simple, but it's everything. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just pray and affirm that all is well in your life, and that you have everything, every resource in money and people and whatever it is to meet every challenge that is before you, and that you come out better, wiser, and stronger. Have a fabulous week, everybody, and we'll see you on Zoom or next week. Love and blessings.